The United States dodged a bullet when Donald Trump backed out of the World Health Organization. Now, the WHO pandemic treaty could be used as a tool for Davos elites to undermine the sovereignty of nations like Canada. Today, my guest is John Carpay. He is the founder and president of the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. John Carpay, thanks for joining me today. I really want to talk about this because let me tell you, this is not new story for this channel. I've been talking about this World Health Organization pandemic treaty thing for years, actually. And some of the people, backbenchers, I guess, in Ottawa have been talking about it. Leslyn Lewis has been a big mouthpiece for getting information out there. And you've been fighting this for that time as well. Where are we with this? Because we know Donald Trump, I'm a big champion of Donald Trump. He got out of the World Health Organization, dodged a bullet there. He's dodged a few bullets, figuratively and literally. But where is Canada right now with this treaty?
Well, the technical side of it, which is a little bit dry, is that the international health regulations, which empower the Director General of the World Health Organization to declare a pandemic emergency and then declare that every country in the world must impose lockdowns and mandatory vaccination policies and travel restrictions and state surveillance, so on and so forth. And so they're deemed to go into effect unless a country has objected and said, we're not doing it. And so the United States, Israel, Argentina, and Italy are the only four countries that, to my knowledge, that have definitively said, we're not doing this. Mm-hmm. Then you've got Germany, Austria, Czech Republic, the Netherlands, Canada, who have said, we are going to do it, but we need to do a little bit of housekeeping and kind of cross our T's and dot our I's, but we will be doing it. So in terms of where it breaks down, the only four holdouts are the United States, Israel, Italy, and what's the fourth one I just mentioned? Argentina. Mm-hmm. So the good thing, the silver lining on the cloud, is that the World Health Organization has no police force, no army, no courts. It cannot force any country to obey. So to the extent to which this gets obeyed really depends on who is in power in a particular country at a particular time. So if 6 months from now or 6 years from now, if the Director General declares that, monkeypox is the new deadly killer that we should all be afraid of and we all need to lock down, Canada, for example, if we had a federal government that respected our own sovereignty and was not a fan of lockdowns, Canada could say, well, thank you very much. We'll take your orders as under advisement, under consideration. We'll consider it, but we're not going to be bound by it. So the scary part of it is that the politicians in Canada and other countries will use the so-called, we're legally obligated to follow this. We have signed this treaty. We have to implement these because we are a covenant to this. And this would be illegal for us to not impose lockdowns, which is a lot of BS.
So we saw this during the last pandemic. It wasn't a case of, there's an army waiting to come down on us if we didn't do it. It was our politicians using authorities as an excuse. Like they just literally said, well, I'm going to pass the buck. It's not on me. I'm not taking responsibility. It's some other authority. And now they're doing this with another government, another extra governmental body. Is that right?
We're putting it on steroids. Back in 2020, the politicians said, they proudly said, like our provincial premiers, provincial health officers, the federal government, federal bureaucrats, they proudly said, our policies align with the World Health Organization. Our policy, we're doing what the World Health Organization is wanting. And they said that, with a great sense of pride. They never claimed, and it would have been a false claim, that they were legally obligated to do it. But next time around, there's still the fact that the WHO has no army to enforce its edicts, but the next time around, it'll be not just we're following these really wise, really smart people that are running the World Health Organization, because obviously if it's the World Health Organization, it must be only the best and brightest that make it up to that level. But this time it'll be on steroids insofar as they'll be saying, look, we're bound. Canada is bound to implement these rules. We have signed on to these regulations, and so we have to honor our legal obligation. So it's a further way of silencing dissent. The first wave in 2020, they silenced dissent by saying, if you disagree with lockdowns, you are an anti-science Neanderthal, and you don't care if grandma dies. And that was powerful enough to get enough compliance. Now, they'll probably still say that if you disagree with this, you're an anti-science Neanderthal and you don't care if people die. But on top of that, they'll say, we're legally obligated to do this. And there'll be a small kernel of truth in there, insofar as we will have signed on to it. We will have made the commitment to obey the Director General of the World Health Organization. So it's a sort of an extra layer of psychological warfare to get people to comply by saying, even if we were wrong about the science and this and that, the fact this is not up for debate. This is a legal obligation. We're not going to debate our legal obligations.
Well, it's written in the bill that it is a legal obligation, right? It is.
Yes.
Yeah, obviously they don't have an army to secure that, but
that's what makes it different from other legal obligations. Like if you and I were in a business contract that went sideways, and if you're suing me for $10,000 or I'm suing you for $10,000, it's legally binding. But ultimately, if you get a court judgment that you have to pay the $10,000, that is enforceable. You can take the court judgment, you can register it. You can actually enforce the judgment. So ordinary legal obligations, there's teeth behind them, right? Like we have a legal obligation to refrain from murder. If you break that law, you're going to be prosecuted, and if convicted, you're going to be locked up. Mm-hmm. So it's a legal obligation, but there's enforcement. You could say, and it is true in some sense, it's true that it does become a legal obligation to obey the WHO, but its inability to enforce anything that's a pretty big deal. Makes it very different from our ordinary legal obligations to pay taxes and not murder our neighbor and not cheat somebody out of money in a business contract, right? Because there you've got real enforcement. The WHO level, you don't. So if there was a different federal government, if the Conservatives were in power, for example, or some other party that didn't agree with this globalism and that wanted to protect Canadian sovereignty and wanted to respect our Constitution, which gives the provinces exclusive jurisdiction over healthcare, then that government that's in power at the time that the Director General announces an edict, that government could just not implement it, or implement it half-heartedly, partially, and there's nothing anybody could do about it.
So this is called a pandemic treaty, but what was it, under the Trudeau's government, one of the amendments that they brought in was to also include under pandemics the global climate change pandemic. They wanted to introduce this idea that climate change is a type of pandemic and that we can use pandemic-like emergency measures to take care of a climate emergency. Is that now part of this this act or this treaty that now we're signed on to?
I couldn't tell you if it's separate or if it's part and parcel, but it's the same danger. And politicians never take away our rights and freedoms without offering a nice sounding pretext. It's always, nobody says no dictator confesses to being a power-hungry, selfish prick who just enjoys abusing other people. No. We're taking away your rights and freedoms for national security and for cyber security and to protect you from hate, to protect you from misinformation, to protect you from disinformation, to protect you from domestic terrorists, to protect you from foreign terrorists. There's always a nice sounding pretext, always, when politicians take away our rights and freedoms. So this whole notion that mankind controls the climate, which is a thesis that does not have a lot of scientific evidence to back it up. But this whole notion that we control the climate, therefore that leads to the government declaring a climate emergency, which means that they can force us to live in 15-minute prison districts or 15-minute cities, if you will.
Got to protect you from your SUV, it sounds like.
Yep.
So
you don't want your children to burn into a crisp, do you?
Right. That's always the fear. It's
even
always
though,
the fear. And it's imminent.
Even though mankind was flourishing, when we had the medieval optimal 1,000 years ago, and we had vineyards in England, and we had agriculture in Greenland, and the world's climate was a good 4 degrees warmer than what it is today, and mankind was thriving and flourishing. And now there's supposedly some climate holocaust apocalypse is going to take place if the world's temperatures rise by 1.5 degrees, which is ridiculous. The Earth was 4 degrees warmer 1,000 years ago, and mankind did very well. So there isn't a threat that needs to be stopped.
Well, it's just around the corner, right? It always will be. So that's how we see this. Now, people are probably watching this video and they're going, okay, well, I guess that's it. Throw everything out. Yard sale. Now, is there something actively that people can do to make a difference here?
People can and should write to their member of parliament. It does work. Some people are incredibly negative and pessimistic, but a topic we could cover another time. But just as an example, since we're talking about grassroots political activism, the federal government has backed down substantially from Bill C-2, the Strong Borders Act, which should be called the Strong Surveillance Act. They've carved it up into border, immigration, and refugee parts of the bill that they're going to fast track, and they're probably hoping to get conservative support and get it through. And the really bad parts of Bill C-2, they're putting on the back burner. Why is that? Because there's been an outpouring of people, Canadians, contacting their MPs and saying that Bill C-2 is very terrible. So people need to contact their MP and say, I expect you to respect our Constitution, respect Canadian authority. To give power to an international body is contrary to Canada's Constitution. One of our constitutional principles is democracy and democratic accountability. And the idea of democracy is basically that citizens have a say through their elected representatives in what laws shall govern us. What laws are we going to be living under? We have a say in that. And it's imperfect, and we don't have a direct say unless you have citizens' initiative. That's a whole other topic. But to give power to unelected, unaccountable foreign bureaucrats in Geneva, Switzerland to dictate our healthcare policies and to violate our charter freedoms is contrary to Canada's Constitution, of which democratic accountability is a core principle. And I find it really ironic that the people who get the most upset about Donald Trump talking about Canada becoming a 51st state, and they get very upset about that because obviously we would not have Canadian sovereignty if we were a 51st state. These very same people are actively, aggressively pushing to violate Canadian sovereignty by giving power to unelected, unaccountable foreigners in Geneva, Switzerland.
Well, that's a hell of an angle. Absolutely. So if people can get in touch with you,
elbows up, but not elbows up when it comes to the World Health Organization. There, it's elbows down.
Well, that's it. So people can get in touch with you at the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. Is there anywhere else, any recommendations, or people can probably get in touch with you or see more media of the things that you're talking about?
Well, there's lots of good information on the internet from different sources about the international health regulations and what they mean. You don't need to be an expert to send off an email to your MP. You can say, I support Canadian sovereignty. I'm opposed to granting powers to the World Health Organization to dictate our healthcare policy. End of email, end of letter. And when enough Canadians do that, it does impact the thinking, especially in a minority government situation where currently the governing Liberals need the support of at least one opposition party to get anything through the House of Commons.
John Carpe, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure is mine.